Pablo, you're not going to let them get away with the complicated stuff, are you?
I mean, I want to make it simple, actually. Let's just recap it. September 2021 to March 2023, quote-unquote Team Ballmer, meaning Steve Ballmer, the governor of the Clippers, Dennis Wong, the alternate governor of the Clippers, the CFO of the Clippers, and also the Clippers themselves via the letterhead with these weird carbon credits, they proceed to give a grand total of $118 million to Aspiration in 18 months. Each new payment, I would argue, less defensible than the last. Which reminds me, by the way, of something another billionaire owner had told me, like a couple episodes ago.
Because if Steve knew, and the minute he found out that this was falling apart and these guys were a scam, he'd say, let me invest some more money so you can pay off Kawhi so this whole thing goes away and there's no evidence of it any longer, and let's just erase all this from the books. You don't leave this outstanding debt out there. If Ballmer was involved and he just immediately square the circle, to use your term, the minute things went sour, he's a fucking moron.
You're saying save Aspiration personally to prevent bankruptcy, to prevent all of this stuff.
That's one option, or invest more money, right? And just tell them to pay off Kawhi. Because it would have made no sense to do this on an annual basis. It would have made a lot more sense to pay it off, put it away, nobody knows any better.
And so, weeks after Steve Ballmer's March 2023 investment, I am told, after the round of fundraising is completed, this is the spring of 2023, another thing worth noting here is that that's about when federal agencies start interviewing dozens of Aspiration employees, just two of which, by the way, you've already heard from in this episode today. In fact, March 2023 happens to be when the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the federal agency, had opened its investigation into Aspiration's carbon credit business, I am told.
Ballmer and the Clippers sent $118 million in 18 months. $118 million was sent.
And so the question hanging all over this is, if this wasn't cap circumvention, why is everything so secretive? As the Aspiration co-founder is under deposition, under oath in this lawsuit, he was looking at his attorney and looking to see, as soon as they started asking about the nature of Steve Ballmer's investment into Aspiration, he looked at his attorney and his attorney said, don't look at me. As if to say, you answer the question. What is the nature of Steve Ballmer's relationship and investment into the company around 2022, 2023? And Joe Sandberg, in this deposition that was brought to light by Pablo Torre's reporting, incredible reporting, he pled the fifth. The co-founder of Aspiration, when asked under oath about the nature of these investments from Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, he suddenly said, I plead the fifth.
In fact, it's getting worse. And it's beginning to pick up some serious steam. And heads are going to roll at the end of this. Because as Adam Silver tries to kick the can down the road and say, well, you know, it's up to us for the burden of proof, these guys just keep bringing out more information. And it's not like as if it's just Pablo up there just making stuff up or just researching this stuff on himself by himself on Google. This guy's actually using lawyers. This ain't no joke.
Pablo Torre just dropped audio that could destroy the LA Clippers and end Kawhi Leonard's career. $118 million. That's how much Steve Ballmer and the Clippers allegedly funneled to a company called Aspiration over 18 months. And the timing of those payments tells a story that should terrify the NBA. Every time Kawhi was about to get paid by Aspiration, the Clippers would mysteriously invest millions more into the company. April 4th, 2022, Clippers send $32 million to Aspiration. Same day, Kawhi signs his $28 million Aspiration deal. This isn't coincidence. This is alleged salary cap circumvention on a scale we've never seen before. Hit that subscribe button because what we're about to uncover involves federal investigations, carbon credit scams, and a corruption scheme so elaborate that it makes other NBA scandals look like parking tickets. And trust me, Kawhi Leonard might not be the only superstar caught in this web. The timeline of corruption. Let's break down the smoking gun timeline that Pablo Torre uncovered, because the dates tell a story that's impossible to ignore. September 14th, 2021, Ballmer LLC invests $50 million in Aspiration. Just 13 days later, September 27th, the Clippers announced their partnership deal with Aspiration. But here's where it gets really damaging. April 1st, 2022, Clippers send $3 million to Aspiration for carbon credits. April 4th, they send another $32 million for more carbon credits. Same exact day, Kawhi Leonard signs his $28 million endorsement deal with Aspiration. The pattern continues like clockwork. June 17, 2022, Clippers send $21 million for carbon credits. July 6th, Aspiration pays Kawhi $1.7 million. December 6th, Dennis Wong invests $2 million in Aspiration. December 15th, Aspiration pays Kawhi $1.75 million. This isn't just suspicious timing. This is a paper trail that screams coordination. Every major Clippers investment into Aspiration was followed almost immediately by payments to Kawhi Leonard. If this was legitimate business, why would the timing be so precise? The most damning part? March 2023, Ballmer invests another $10 million in Aspiration. Late March 2023, federal agencies begin investigating Aspiration. That final investment looks like hush money to keep the scheme quiet. The carbon credit scam. Here's how the alleged scam worked, and it's brilliant in its simplicity. Carbon credits are supposed to offset a company's environmental impact. You buy credits that fund tree planting or other green initiatives. But Aspiration was allegedly selling these credits at massive markups. If planting a tree costs 10 to 20 cents, Aspiration would charge about $1, creating instant profit margins of 400 to 500%. The Clippers would buy millions of dollars worth of these overpriced credits. Aspiration would pocket the difference and then mysteriously have enough cash to pay Kawhi Leonard. This is where Mark Cuban entered the story with a devastating observation. Cuban tweeted asking why Torre wasn't investigating the carbon credit angle, essentially laying out exactly how salary cap circumvention could work through this scheme. Think about the genius of using environmental credits as the vehicle. Who's going to question a team trying to be environmentally responsible? It's the perfect cover for moving massive amounts of money while appearing to support a good cause. But here's what makes it even more damaging. Torres uncovered evidence suggesting this is exactly what happened. The Clippers weren't buying carbon credits because they cared about the environment. They were buying them to create a slush fund that could pay Kawhi Leonard outside the salary cap. And the federal government has apparently figured this out, which is why they opened their investigation in March 2023, right after Ballmer's final investment. The Uncle Dennis factor. Remember the original Yahoo Sports report that started this whole investigation? It revealed that Kawhi Leonard's uncle Dennis Robertson had sent teams a wish list during his 2019 free agency that included part ownership of a team, access to private planes, guaranteed endorsement money, and a house. These requests were sent to the Lakers, Raptors, and Clippers, all teams that were courting Kawhi. The requests fell outside the boundaries of the NBA CBA, which is a polite way of saying they were illegal under league rules. But here's what nobody understood at the time. The Clippers apparently found a way to deliver on these impossible demands. They couldn't give Kawhi part ownership directly, but they could funnel money through Aspiration. They couldn't guarantee endorsement money officially, but they could make sure Aspiration had enough cash to pay him. Uncle Dennis wasn't just making outrageous demands, he was testing which organization was willing to break the rules. And the Clippers apparently passed that test with flying colors. This explains why Kawhi chose the Clippers over the Lakers, despite LeBron and Anthony Davis recruiting him heavily. It wasn't just about basketball or location. It was about which team was willing to pay him the most money through creative accounting. But what Uncle Dennis probably didn't anticipate was that this elaborate scheme would eventually be exposed through investigative journalism and federal investigations. The federal investigation reality. This isn't just NBA drama anymore. This is a federal criminal investigation. Pablo Torre revealed that the Commodity Futures Trading Commission opened their investigation into Aspiration's carbon credit business in March 2023, and federal agencies have been interviewing dozens of Aspiration employees. When federal agencies start interviewing employees and investigating your business practices, that means they believe laws may have been broken. This isn't an NBA internal investigation that might result in fines or draft pick penalties. This is the kind of investigation that can result in criminal charges. The timing is devastating for everyone involved. Just as Ballmer was making his final $10 million investment to keep Aspiration afloat, federal investigators were building their case. That investment might now be seen as an attempt to obstruct justice or tamper with evidence. Think about what this means for Kawhi Leonard. If federal investigators determine that his Aspiration payments were essentially disguised salary cap circumvention, he could face serious legal consequences beyond just NBA penalties. And for Steve Ballmer, this could be catastrophic. He's not just facing league discipline, he could be looking at federal charges related to fraud, money laundering, or conspiracy. A man worth $100 billion could lose his team and his reputation over trying to pay one basketball player. The federal investigation also explains why this story keeps getting worse instead of going away. Every time the NBA tries to sweep it under the rug, more evidence emerges from federal sources who have access to financial records and employee testimonies. The systemic problem.
This is insanity. And I want to say this quickly. If these things that are alleged are true, I don't believe Kawhi Leonard is the only one doing it. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to believe it.
The host made a crucial point that everyone needs to understand. Kawhi Leonard is probably not the only player involved in schemes like this. This kind of salary cap circumvention is likely endemic throughout the league, and Kawhi just got caught because the paper trail was too obvious. Think about how many players have mysterious endorsement deals with companies that happen to have business relationships with their teams. How many consulting agreements exist between players and team sponsors? How many real estate deals happen between players and team-connected developers? The NBA's salary cap system creates enormous incentives for creative accounting. When teams want to pay players more than the cap allows, they have to find alternative methods. The Clippers' Aspiration scheme might be the most elaborate version we've seen, but it's probably not unique. This is why the NBA reopened their investigation so quickly after Torre's first report. They're not just worried about the Clippers. They're worried about what else might be discovered if investigators start looking at every team's business relationships with their star players. If federal investigators find evidence of similar schemes involving other teams and players, the entire league could be in crisis. We could be looking at contract voiding, team ownership changes, and criminal charges across multiple franchises. The Kawhi Leonard case might just be the tip of the iceberg, and that's what makes it so dangerous for everyone involved. The penalties and consequences. Let's talk about what could happen if these allegations are proven true, because the potential penalties are severe enough to change the entire landscape of the NBA. For Kawhi Leonard personally, his contract could be voided entirely, meaning he'd lose guaranteed money and become an unrestricted free agent. He could also be forced to pay back the $28 million he received from Aspiration, plus face a $350,000 fine from the league. But those might be the least of his problems if federal charges are filed. For the Clippers, the penalties could be devastating. They could lose draft picks for multiple years, face massive fines, and potentially have key front office members suspended for up to a year. In extreme cases, the league could even force an ownership change. Steve Ballmer could lose the team he paid $2 billion for, all because he allegedly tried to circumvent salary cap rules to sign one player. The man worth $100 billion could lose everything over what amounts to pocket change for him. But here's what's really scary. If this scheme is proven, it could invalidate the Clippers' entire competitive advantage over the last few years. Every game Kawhi played, every playoff series they won or lost, could be seen as tainted by illegal player compensation. The precedent this sets for the league could be enormous. If teams know they can lose their franchise for salary cap violations, it might fundamentally change how business is conducted throughout the NBA. And if federal criminal charges are filed, we could see NBA executives and players in handcuffs, which would be a public relations disaster that the league might never recover from. The House of Cards collapses. What started as suspicious timing between Clippers investments and Kawhi Leonard payments has exploded into a federal investigation that could reshape the entire NBA. Pablo Torre's reporting has uncovered a paper trail so damaging that even the league's attempts to downplay it have failed. The timeline speaks for itself. $118 million in investments over 18 months, with every major payment to Aspiration followed immediately by payments to Kawhi Leonard. That's not coincidence, that's coordination. The carbon credit scheme provided the perfect cover for salary cap circumvention, allowing the Clippers to funnel money to Kawhi while appearing to support environmental causes. But federal investigators saw through the scam, and now everyone involved is facing potential criminal charges. Uncle Dennis's impossible demands during free agency make perfect sense now. He wasn't just being greedy, he was testing which teams were willing to break the rules. The Clippers passed that test, but now they're paying the price. Most importantly, this probably isn't an isolated incident. If Kawhi Leonard was getting paid through creative schemes, how many other players have similar arrangements? The federal investigation could expose corruption throughout the league. Steve Ballmer thought he was buying a championship with his $118 million investment. Instead, he might have bought himself a federal investigation and the loss of his team. Sometimes the price of winning is higher than anyone imagines. If this breakdown of the Kawhi Leonard corruption scandal opened your eyes to how salary cap circumvention really works in professional sports, make sure to subscribe for more investigative analysis that follows the money trail behind the biggest stories in basketball. Because sometimes the most important games are played with accountants, not athletes.